Are you a fan of Stephen King's Dark Tower series? Do you like fun and or seriously unsettling actual play podcasts about dimension-hopping heroes that do battle with the forces of evil? If you answered yes, chances are you'll enjoy the War for the Tower role-playing podcast set in the world of the Dark Tower. It takes place between books 6 and 7 and aims to correct some of King's more egregious indulgences. The characters include a survivor of Jericho Hill, the High Wizard of Brooklyn, a shape-shifting badass from Dungeons & Dragons, and so much more. Find us at warforthetower.com or search War for the Tower on your podcatcher. Long days and pleasant nights, and toodaloo, motherfuckers. This is an Unspoiled Network podcast. This is Unspoiled, covering Doctor Who. Season 4, Episode 13, The Stolen Earth. In this episode, Doc's regenerating already. We're not even making it all the way to the end of the season. I am very surprised. Also, there's Daleks, but they're not really the brains of the operation, evidently, so I feel vindicated. Welcome to Unspoiled. Welcome to the show, everybody. I am Natasha.
I'm Jamie.
So what's this guy's name again?
Davros.
This Sith Lord looking motherfucker?
Davros. Not Davos. Davros. I pulled up on my little site that I go to for Doctor Who stuff. I clicked on the Davros link because I was like, I'm going to need to explain who he is. And I don't exactly know. And you know what? It's so fucking complicated.
Uh-oh.
He started out as a sort of humanoid.
Okay.
On some planet. More human looking than alien. And he was the creator of the Daleks, essentially.
Right. That I got.
He made them.
Yeah.
Yeah. He is the one of, if not the biggest enemy of the Doctor. So Davros has been a villain a lot throughout this, old Who and New Who. This is the first time we're seeing him, but yeah, he's the creator of the Daleks, and they sort of turned against him at times, I think. I honestly didn't read all of this. It's a lot.
That's fair. No, it's fine.
So, if any of our Whovian scholars want to give a brief breakdown of it, that concise and not, this feels like if I printed it out, it would be like 8 pages long. Like, it's just a lot. So, yeah, basically he sort of turned into this thing that needs to live sort of in half of a Dalek shell. And I don't entirely understand why. I guess he takes pieces of himself, but how does that make that little squid inside the Dalek? I don't understand it.
Yeah.
So if somebody wants to explain it nice and concisely for us, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, he splices himself with octopus genes or something.
Well, then they'd be a lot smarter, wouldn't they?
That's true. Octopuses are hella smart.
Yeah.
Terrifyingly so, actually.
They're aliens. I honestly, I'm not kidding. I read an article that the DNA in an octopus is like nothing else on our planet. Like most of the DNA of things on our planet can be sort of traced to something else.
Right.
On Earth, it's connected in some way. But octopi DNA is completely separate from anything else. And I really do think they probably started out as aliens. They sort of fell here and survived in the oceans.
I would say that they probably are connected to something that we haven't discovered yet, because the oceans are terrifying, lawless places full of the scariest things that you can imagine, except 6 times the size that you imagine in the first place. So
yeah, the oceans are like deep space.
Yep. Much worse, though. because they're under us.
We don't know.
And they're here.
They're here.
Much worse. Oceans are scary, and I just don't like to think about them too much. So this episode starts off with the Doctor and Donna arriving on some street. Are they in Cardiff here, or are they in London?
They don't really say.
But it's just there's a milkman here, which like had me wondering what year it was, but evidently it's the current year.
Yeah, I think that you can still get milk delivered in a lot of places.
Which, I mean, I kind of love that, but also, what a weird thing.
Yeah.
You know? And the two of them are, like, looking around, and he's like, oh, everything is fine. Everything seems like it's fine. And he goes back inside the TARDIS, and as he does so, shit starts to happen outside. And all of the bottles are rattling, and tiles are coming off of the roof of the house. And finally, the TARDIS gets shaken so bad that even inside, the Doctor and Donna feel that something just happened. And they open the door of the TARDIS, and there is nothing there. There is just space. And the Earth is just gone, which is cool as hell. I love this idea. When it was called The Stolen Earth, I really thought this was going to be about colonizers or something.
Oh my god.
I didn't think it was going to be so literal. Somebody just stole the Earth straight up. They did it.
Yep. Now, have you noticed throughout this season all of the references to missing planets? Have you
not even a little bit
any of that? Okay.
Nope, not even a bit. Like, and I really enjoy the reveal of it because once in retrospect it totally makes sense, and I'm like, oh right. But in the moment, I was just like, well, you know, this place is weird. This universe for this show is just weird. Shit goes missing, I guess. That's fine.
I'm glad that it wasn't, because in the season with the Master, season 3, throughout the whole thing, you were like, well, they keep saying you're not alone, so obviously there's another Time Lord out there. And you were right, and I couldn't say anything, but you were right. Like, they kept mentioning it. It were like, it was a bell that just kept ringing. But with this, it's
subtler.
You know, it was much subtler because it was the adipose 3 or whatever it's called in the first episode with Donna, and you're like, well, that's weird. Their planet disappeared, but you don't think anything of it. And then even in Midnight, where she's like the lost moon of Poosh, and he's like, lost moon of Poosh?
Yeah.
Well, you'll find it someday. And it just wasn't like a big gong that was being hit.
And I mean,
but
when you say lost moon, it doesn't like register to me that it just got lost. I'm thinking of it like an archaeologist sort of thing, like, you know.
Well, and the Doctor, if he was really thinking about it, probably wouldn't have put it together either, because they are at different times. And he puts that together when they're at the Shadow Proclamation, where he's like, they're not just being taken, they're being taken out of time. Because they realized that one of the planets that they'd heard was missing was like thousands of years ago.
Right.
No, that's been gone forever.
Yeah, that's so, like, that in particular, I really like that detail of the timing of everything being because, like, the whole thing with the Time Lords and the concept of them is interesting, but really what we've seen so far is just they live a very long time, and this TARDIS can travel to different points in time. And that doesn't feel that different from other things that I have read or just, you know, ideas out there. But the idea that there could be a plan going on that they are executing somehow thousands of years previous to when they formulated the plan, that I think is a really cool idea. And just really, like, adds another dimension, pun intended, to the fact that they can mess with shit. Well, I'm saying they, because this guy isn't a Time Lord, right? Like,
no.
But he's still somehow able to do something with time, apparently.
He's able to pull these planets. It seems like he's picking planets that will balance each other out to form a system. Or he needs certain planets of certain sizes for some reason.
Right.
And so they all sort of fit like a puzzle, but also he specifically is targeting the Earth because the Doctor loves the Earth so much. Mm-hmm. So it's like he starts with the Earth and then picks all of these other planets and pulls them from time somehow. And I don't really know how that works.
Right.
But that's what he did. And that's why, like, one of them is just a moon, because he needed something that size to balance the scale.
Yeah, that was the other thing, was like the lost moon, that's a whole other beast. So I was still not quite, like, I was like, well, why would he want that? Are there people, like, living on the moon? Like, what's the deal? Because it seems like they're after places that are habitable or inhabited. I'm saying that, but I don't know that for sure. We've heard about the ones that are inhabited because, of course, there's somebody there to be like, hey, what the fuck? But I don't know that all of them are. I'm assuming they are.
And we don't get the names of all of them. There's like 27 planets and a moon.
Right.
And I don't know if it's these particular planets because of their inhabitants, or is it these particular planets because of the size?
Yeah, that's true. Because, the moon is just small enough, so maybe there were size requirements for other ones as well.
And we don't know yet what
the Earth
point
the
is.
main target, and they just wanted to go after the Earth specifically? Because it feels personal to me. It feels like this dude is like, oh, you fucking asshole Time Lord with your fucking human allies. You suck. I hate you. These are all your friends. You have a particular soft spot for this planet and these people, so fuck you. That's the one I'm going to take over. That's the vibe I get.
Well, yes. That's, I think, exactly it. Is the Earth is specifically to get the Doctor.
Yeah. Yeah, so was the Earth the one that they pulled, like, not that they pulled first, because obviously they did other ones first, but, like, was the Earth the center of the plan? And then they were just like, all right, what planets do we need to balance this out against
That's
the
what
Earth,
I think.
right?
We don't have all the details yet.
Okay.
But in order to make this thing happen that they're trying to make happen, they needed... It seems like it has to be a certain balance, because you saw in the Shadow Proclamation when the Doctor added in that planet that disappeared eons ago and that moon, it all sort of shifted itself into place to where everything balanced.
Yeah, so, and that was a pretty cool moment too, because what's the name of the woman? Does she have her own name, or is she the Shadow Proclamation?
Well, let me see, because I don't remember exactly.
But regardless, when they all like snap into place, she says like, what did you do to the Doctor? And I thought she had done something. So I like that moment that he's like, oh, I didn't do anything. It just did that. And I was like, wait, what? Oh, okay. But we are getting ahead of ourselves here. So when they open the door of the TARDIS, it's space. Martha is knocked down and gets up, and it turns out that she's like off in New York, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with Unit.
And then we go to, oh, fuck. I'm sorry. I just got a text from Owen that the woman that was supposed to cover tonight so that he could be at home and decorate the tree with me backed out, and now he is going to not have the night off.
Aww.
I hate his job so much sometimes. I really do. Sorry, guys.
I completely understand.
Him and I started recording late with Jamie tonight because we were desperately trying to pick up a Christmas tree before I recorded so that it would be here so we could decorate tonight, because he rarely gets the nights off. And I was excited that he had gotten this one, and I didn't know if he'd be able to manage it another day. So I made sure that we were at least able to get the tree and have this evening. And now we're not even going to get that. And it's just really depressing sometimes. I just want him to be able to have a job where everything is not on him at all times. Is that so much to ask? All right. Sorry, guys. So, yeah, she is in New York, and then we go to Captain Jack Harkness with his two people. Are these people from a series?
Yes.
Okay, because they are treating them like we should know who they are, and I do not. And it was just sort of a weird vibe that I was getting, that I was like, I think I'm supposed to like be aware of these people already.
That's from the show Torchwood.
Okay.
That's Gwen Cooper and Ianto Jones, two of his team.
I have never seen a person named Ianto. Owen's friend has a dog named Ianto. That's the only time I've ever heard that name.
I wonder if they watched Torchwood.
Maybe.
And named it after Ianto.
That would not surprise me. It seems right on brand, actually, for this person.
People have asked if we were going to cover Torchwood, and I believe it's the first season of Torchwood is running concurrently with this one, or maybe this is the second season of Torchwood.
Okay.
I didn't watch Torchwood until after I had finished, I believe, this season. Then I went back and watched Torchwood. It doesn't really cross over much.
Okay.
It's only in this situation where they assume you know who these people are and what has happened with them. But it wasn't like Buffy and Angel, where there were like legit crossovers that were important to the stories in both seasons or both series. I think there was like one crossover where Jack appeared.
Okay.
Recently. Yeah, with Martha.
Oh, with
Martha's season,
I
we
thought
saw
you
Jack.
meant one coming up. Yeah.
No. I was trying to remember, like, have we seen Jack? And yeah, so I think this was the second season of Torchwood.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, it was sort of weird, too, because Ianto has a very doctory look to him, in my mind. So I honestly was like, I was thinking to myself at first that Jack was involved with him, that there was something romantic going on with the two of them, and that Jack just like, had developed a type, and that type was guys who look like the Doctor. But it turns
you don't know that it hasn't.
That's true. That's fair.
It is Jack.
But it doesn't, like, I didn't get that vibe after a little while, and then when I started to realize the way they were treating these characters and the fact that it felt like I was supposed to know who they were, then I was like, maybe the show just wants the aesthetic of somebody who is Doctor-ish to call back a little bit to their roots. And so they just dress this guy this way and do his hair this way.
Unsurprisingly, in the Doctor Who Torchwood fandom, people really, really love Ianto.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, and then we go to Sarah.
Yeah, Sarah Jane. And see, that also, that's a crossover for her series, the Sarah Jane, I think it's called the Sarah Jane Chronicles.
I feel like I remember you mentioning that.
Yeah, and that one is very much directed at children, like completely at children.
Okay. Makes sense that she's got a son.
Yeah.
Who's kind of in on things, so you have somebody who's not a total adult mucking up the works.
Yeah, and I think she has like a group of kids that she works with, like her son and his friends or something. And they mentioned something in here about like, great job with the Slitheen. Like she's doing stuff with her son and his friends.
Yeah, I forgot about
that. But I've never seen that show.
So yeah, I actually rather, like, as much as I don't know anything about these shows, and as much as like I'm not really invested in these characters particularly, I did like bouncing around to each of them and seeing what's happening and like trying to draw their own conclusions as best they can. And like, because there is something that happens with these kinds of universes where like authors or writers or whomever they can sort of tend to behave as if like the people that we know are the only ones who are aware of all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And that can be just difficult to like really get behind. And I liked the fact that we have this reminder that, yeah, Martha is still out there, still doing her thing. Jack is out there, basically immortal at this point, and has like multiple people that are working for him and under him. Pun intended. And then we have Sarah Jane, who's like, still out here. Oh, it's not like she fucking got her memory wiped. She still knows everything that from when she was a companion. And that all of these people are likely going to be like somehow involved with it, because you don't walk away from knowing this kind of thing.
Right. And it makes the world a little bit bigger. Mm-hmm. But it also is like, these people, exactly, they don't just walk away. If something like this happens to the planet Earth, they're not just going to be sitting back, like, not noticing, like Donna with her hangover.
Right.
They're going to be
Bless her.
Doing what they need to do because they've been conditioned by being in connection with the Doctor to fight, mm-hmm. to solve.
Right.
And if it makes me think about, like, spoilers for Buffy, but there were so many end of the worlds on Buffy, you know? Yep. And rarely did anybody from outside of Sunnydale ever appear to help with those things. Mm-hmm. And when those characters did show up at a certain point, it made so much sense. Like, of course, this person, I don't think that Chris listens to our show, but just in case. Like, of course this person would show up at this time, and of course this person would be involved in this way. That makes sense. It wouldn't make sense for them to never show up again. Mm-hmm. It's the end of the world.
Yeah, it reminds me kind of like the 6th book of Harry Potter, is it? Where we like have the minister being introduced to Fudge and just finding out. One of the
best.
It's so good.
Chapters.
And just finding out that like the minister of magic is in contact with the Muggle minister, and that there is like, you can tell yourself, oh, they don't know anything about it. But in reality, it wouldn't make a ton of sense if they didn't know about it.
Yeah.
And just that expansion just adds a lot.
I still would love to have some kind of like series, like offshoot series, that is the Muggle Prime Minister just having to deal with magic shit that keeps leaking into his world.
You could do that on pretty low budget too. I could see that working.
You could.
That'd be pretty funny.
Even if it was just like, not to say like, oh, the Muggle Prime Minister is incompetent or anything, but having it be like a half-hour, almost sitcom, mm-hmm. like a Veep or The Office, where it's like, what's this crazy thing that's happening out in Wales? And then you have the, Kingsley Shacklebolt, who's like, it's okay, Minister.
Oh, my God. Yeah, because we could make Kingsley real hot,
we've
too.
Got it. Yeah, Idris Elba.
Oh, my God. Why would you even say that? Now I need this to...
That's who I wanted to be
so hot
Kingsley.
As Kingsley.
That is who I pictured when I realized, like, when the first time I saw Idris Elba, I was like, Kingsley Shacklebolt would have been perfect.
I don't know why I didn't even think of him, because I was thinking younger, I think. But yeah, I'm totally here for that. When is that man going to start getting too old to be hot? Because I feel like that time should have passed by now, and it is not happening. Mm-mm. He's just going to be hot.
He's only 40-something. He still has a good 3 or 4 decades before we're like, he's not. No, because he'll still be handsome. It's never going to go away. Even when he's 70, you're still going to be like, still got it, though. Look at Harrison Ford.
I don't know. Harrison Ford looks like a saddlebag to me now. I'm sorry. Too harsh? I suppose I wouldn't like it if someone said I looked like a saddlebag.
I don't agree. It's just such a funny way of describing it. I just saw a movie trailer for he's doing Call of the Wild, and I was just like, aw, he's still so handsome.
Okay.
I mean, he's not Star Wars.
No,
Han Solo,
but yeah.
But
I was always more of an Indiana Jones than Han Solo fan.
I mean, to me, they're the same.
They're not the same. You jag. Oh my God. Don't even say that to me. Do you think Han
roguish.
Solo would be yelling, "This belongs in a museum"? Jamie, no. He would be like,
No.
"Give it to me so I can pawn it,"
No.
is what he would be saying.
But they have the same sort of swag. You know, they're confident swagger.
I suppose.
Just one's a criminal and one wants to put dangerous artifacts in museums.
Okay, so moving on. Then we have Rose appearing in the middle of the street with her electric guitar. I mean, gun.
Her giant gun.
It definitely looked like she was standing there holding an electric guitar, though. Like 1,000%. It took me a second to realize that was a gun. I genuinely was like, am I watching Xanadu? What is happening right now? Because they're just like, she like beams down like she's one of the muses or whatever. I'm going to pause it and screenshot this moment so that I can use this for the image for this week.
When her hair is sort of blown back and there's all glow.
It's not even the glow, like, although maybe I'll do 2 screenshots. But yeah, and it's her stance. There's something about the way that her legs are spread that it just looks like she's really just about to like let one rip on the guitar, not let one rip from her ass, which is definitely what that sounded like. Sorry, I apologize to everybody. Yeah, she looks like a fucking, that's so cool though. I like it. So it turns out that I guess because she is in another universe, nobody is aware of her being involved in this at all, and nobody is really looking for her. Even the doctor isn't, like, he's like hoping to see her, but he seems to kind of like accept that she may have only been able to connect with Donna via this weird event that happened and not be able to come through now. So he's sort of like hoping, but he isn't like going out being like, where is she? And this winds up being a little bit of like a frustrating thing for her because she's not being included in anything the way that she thinks she should be. Mm-hmm. And later on, when this transmission begins to come through from Harriet?
Yeah, Harriet Jones.
Harriet Jones.
Former Prime Minister.
Former Prime Minister over and over again. When there's like a screen that somebody isn't like failing to appear, she's assuming, of course, that's me. They're waiting for me. And then it turns out to be Martha. And she's just straight up like, who is that? And I was like, you sound a little bit snotty right now, Rose. Like, just
sounded
be cool.
a little jealous.
She did. And like they mentioned her, Martha being a companion. And Rose is like, I was before her. And I was like, Rose, be nice. But that was pretty fun, though. So the doctor is trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. And Donna is naturally flipping out. And is like, you know, my entire family, like, that was my entire world. It's just gone? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? And the doctor is trying to find some sort of trace to follow that could indicate where the hell the planet is gone. And there is nothing. And he is himself a little bit freaked out by this because he has never seen tech that could accomplish something like this before. This makes him deeply uncomfortable. So he...
Well, and also nobody can get a hold of him.
Right. Yeah. And like that hasn't even started yet because they're all still like trying to just figure shit out. But the moment here where like this happens a little bit later again, but the moment here where he's just like, I don't know what to tell you, Donna. Like he wants to be comforting, but he can't. He doesn't know anything.
Yeah.
And then later on when she's like, you can't do this to me because he's just standing there and has no move. She wants to know what they need to do next, and he hasn't got anything to offer her. And that is probably like the first time that we've really seen him completely stymied.
Yeah.
He has never just straight... There's been times where he doesn't know what's going on, but he will still make an effort, even if he doesn't succeed, like Midnight, you know.
Yeah.
he was still really trying throughout. And this is the first time that he literally just sits back and stares, and it's just like, what the fuck? And I feel real bad that had to happen in front of Donna. I have those moments on your own time, sir. But, you know, what can you do? I was going to say he's only human, but then I was like, haha, no.
It's a rare situation where he doesn't know what the move could be because he doesn't understand what's happening.
Yeah.
Because it's not just that the Earth moved. That's weird enough. But the TARDIS stayed exactly where it was.
Right. Yeah. And this is what brings him to the Shadow Proclamation. And then he finds out that this has, like, been happening. And there is a pretty amusing, like, bit of television where the Torchwood people are, like, flicking in between channels, and we're seeing all of, like different commentary on this. And they have, like, Professor Richard Dawkins commenting on this. There's another man with a really bonkers fucking hutch full of toys in the background, and a dog on his desk with a big letter P on his mug, who's talking about the planets outside. What was it I was drinking last night? Furniture polish. This guy has to be a real host. But what the fuck kind of setup is that? That looks like something that came out of, like, the early 90s, late 80s, like, and just never really got, like, you ever look back at the way that talk shows were set up back in the day and just think, what were we thinking doing it like this?
Not old talk shows, but for a while on the Game Show Network, they were showing old games from, like, the 70s.
Oh, nice.
And there was one, it came up in my memories the other day because I had to take a picture of it. I don't even remember what game it was. It was like Game of the Century or something I'd never heard of. But they had those, like, rooms where they would set up prizes.
Yeah.
And it was, like, so clearly supposed to be some version of C-3PO and Princess Leia, but, like, the weirdest.
Oh, no.
Idea of, like, and I think my caption was something like, when the 70s discovered Star Wars. It was so weird. I don't even know what the prize could have possibly been with this, like, gold metallic thing and then this girl mannequin in, like, a white dress and with brown hair, but not in cinnamon buns.
Oh my god.
It's like, what were they doing?
That is so funny. Oh, television. You really are a marker for things. So
I'm looking to see if, because I know that Richard Dawkins was he's a real person.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
Trying to see if this says anything about the other person, but I don't remember reading anything about the other person.
So they're all, like, getting in contact with each other at this point, and this is when Rose begins to head over to Donna's house and find her family. And they are in every area tracking some, like, formation that has appeared on a scanner. And we discover quite quickly that the Daleks are coming, because we begin to hear exterminate, and everybody is just like, wow, okay, so I guess we're dead then. And I gave some shit to the Daleks when I was just like, they don't seem like they're smart enough to set this up. And I stand by that. But it does suck that they are nigh indestructible. I mean, there is hardly anything to be done. There's occasional, you know, like, so I don't want to act like the Daleks are not something to worry about. But they aren't exactly fearsome. It's just that they are like a fucking bulldozer. Right?
Yeah.
Where I'm not, like, afraid of a bulldozer, but I can't deny that will bulldoze you. That, or a steamroller, will just pass right over you. There'll be, like, a slight bump, and then your remains will just be a squashed, flattened thing. And it's not like the steamroller is particularly menacing in the moment. It's just able to accomplish this thing very efficiently and very, like, easily, really.
Well, they're not indestructible, but they're not easily destroyed.
Yeah.
So, and they very quickly will just shoot you and electrocute you. Or whatever. So, and I mean, obviously 3 of them can stand together and blow up a house.
Yeah, that was a new one also. Didn't appreciate that. So yeah, the Daleks, like, when everybody starts to really react because they realize that it's Daleks, I was still kind of like, oh, I mean, okay, I guess. Not really that, like, excited about this turn of events. It's not until we meet the other dude later, who at first is just giving us real Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget vibes, because all we can see is his weird metal hand. Then I started to be like, okay, so it's not just them. They're like working for somebody, and I can definitely get behind that. And he is also, like, real fucking creepy. Just a real creepo. And I like that as well. That he's not just some, like, kind of weird alien. There's not, like, we're not trying to do anything particularly new or outrageous. We're just going to make him look like a really fucked up person. And that is much more alarming. That fucking eyeless thing that he's got going on?
Yeah, it's like half of the creature concept for the Dementors.
Yeah. He's like a Dementor plus a Sith Lord plus, like, one of those kings under the water in Lord of the Rings in the swamp.
The ghosts army?
Yeah. Kind of reminds me of one of those. But because of, like, the...
Oh, no. Are you talking about when Frodo gets pulled down, sort of?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was thinking of when Aragorn and Legolas and Gimli go through that mountain.
Oh, no. Yeah. No, one of the things that's
the dead people that are just...
Yeah.
Oh, man, I want to watch Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, it does not get old, I swear to God.
Never. I'm overdue. I haven't watched it for like 4 months. I'll probably watch it again.
For 4 months. So finally, because they just don't know where the fuck the Doctor is, they are trying to get in touch with him. Meanwhile, he doesn't know where the Earth is, so he's just trying to figure out what, like, the basics of what could have happened. They realize that if they all dial the number for the phone that he has at the same time and use the thing from Torchwood, I guess, to boost the signal, that it will get to him. That it's just that they don't have, it's not strong enough. So that is what they do. And they manage to get in touch with him. And the Shadow Proclamation is like, oh, yeah, hey, we're going to war. We need you to lead us. And he's like, that's really cute. I'm going to do what I want to do. Bye.
Hold on. Let me just... Because they try to confiscate the TARDIS. We need your spaceship.
Right.
And he's like, sure. Okay, sure, yeah. Let me just go get a key.
Ma'am. Oldest trick in the book. I can't believe she fell for that.
I like that the Jadoon were there.
Yes, I didn't think that we would see them again, and that was fun.
Yeah. I really like them.
I like him talking to them, also. That was fun. Because at first he's, like, following their intonations with it being very, like, sort of static and monotone, and then he just sort of lapses into his own way of talking, even though it's totally another language. So, yeah, he bails the way he do. Meanwhile, Martha has been told to, like, use this evacuation, like, teleportation technology.
Project Indigo. Right. That's what they call it.
And Jack is on the phone with her when she does this, and he is really upset because he thinks that she has evaporated into space, that she's been, like, vaporized.
He says she's been reduced to atoms, scattered into atoms or whatever.
But it turns out that, no, it works, and she just went home. She wound up in the foyer of her house, and it's just like, I guess it read my mind, because that was where I wanted to be the most. I didn't even, like, really pick a destination exactly. But then I just, like, opened my eyes, and there I was, and my mom was coming down the stairs, and it was pretty good. So I actually really liked that. The fact that she winds up being able to be at home, because I feel like her family, I just wanted more of them, you know, I've been saying. So they get a little bit of time here, and her mother especially. And then we get the, there's the attack of the Daleks on the base where she had been, and that's why she, like, bails. And it turns out that they are, like, heading to military bases first. And then we get the, like, Dr. Clawhand, and we get a weird Dalek that's, like, old and cobwebby.
Well, this is Dalek Khan, and you know what? I need to actually look it up, because we've heard his name before. I believe Dalek Khan was one of the... What were those special Daleks that we met? The
ones that were like hybrids? Well, there was only the one that was a hybrid, I guess.
No, but they were the ones creating that. They were like elite Daleks,
right?
That survived. I really wanted this to give me just a link to his name so I could just hop over there. It's hard to find.
I love this Dalek. I love him.
The crazy one, Dalek Khan?
Yes. He looks like a melted ice cream. He has the voice of like a goblin and wiggles all over the place. Like, he is just like so excited about everything. Like, he betrays an emotion, which none of the other Daleks do. And that emotion is here for it at all times. 100% on it.
He was one of the 4 Daleks in the Cult of Skaro, which we saw in Doomsday.
Okay.
So they were the ones who came back in that big egg. And after two defeats by the 10th Doctor, Khan was thought to be the only Dalek remaining in existence. To create a new Dalek empire, he accomplished what was thought to be impossible. He breached the time-locked situation of the last great Time War and extracted Davos.
Right.
Davros. So that's how he, like, I guess when they fought the Doctor in Doomsday, and they all used their temporal shift to get out of the situation, he went to the Time War, which is supposed to be locked. You can't change the outcome of it.
But he did that shit.
He took Davros from it, and doing that made him crazy. It, like, broke his brain.
That feels fair. That seems like a thing that would make you crazy. Well, I deeply enjoy him. He's like, he looks like when bread dough is like not quite kneaded enough. Like, do you know what I mean? When it gets that like weird ropey torn sort of look, and you're like, no, needs more gluten time. And the one eyeball sticking out of it that is like the size of a tennis ball, it's just looks so much like a gumball. And it's just like the whole look of him is so fucking weird. And like, there's something about his look that's like almost low rent, but it works almost better because of that. Like, it makes him creepier. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then he's like, the Doctor is coming. Like, fucking, he's a maniac. I really, really like him. Yeah, I just like, if he could dance, that's what he'd be doing. If he had the ability to like prance around.
Maybe that's why his little tentacles are flopping all over the place.
Exactly.
By the way, Jason was watching this with me. He was half watching. He was playing on his phone. But he, when Dalek starts screaming, you look up at the TV, no matter what you're doing, because you're like, what is happening? And he was like, the fuck? And I was like, have you never seen what's inside of a Dalek? Because he's seen the first season enough times. Like, he's seen that one Dalek that Rose saved.
Right.
But he was like, what's wrong with it? It's even worse than I remember.
Correct, sir.
And then he's like, that's really gross. Just really, really gross. I was like, okay.
I mean,
I guess I'm just desensitized to what Daleks look like inside of their little cage.
I mean, I think it's a combo, too. It's like, it looks terrible. But like I said, there's also like weird like webbing all over the inside of this thing. It's like they're trying to... It's not just like, oh, he's gone crazy and who knows what's happening over there. There's a vibe to it of like old person. Mm-hmm. Like when an old person starts to get that like weird papery, powdery thing going on with their skin. And just that is what I like for some reason assumed was happening there, was that it's all cobwebby because he's real old and gross and his parts are beginning to sort of fall apart and he's just sloughing off like skin and it's just hanging around because where's it going to go?
He's molting, but it's just getting caught in these cobwebs that have been building up around him because Daleks don't have hands to clean things.
Or he could be like a real creep and be like, no, don't get rid of it. I'm going to use that. Like he's a hoarder, yelling at his nurse.
Don't throw away the hair from a hairbrush. Please put it in the box.
Yep. In the hair box.
Ugh.
Yeah. He dances in the lonely places. Oh, what a fucking creep. He's like, his tentacles are flying around like those, the aliens from Independence Day. When, when he like, they're in the room and it grabs the scientist and shoves his face against the glass. No peace. So then comes this real weird scene with Donna where somebody is basically like, I'm really sorry for the terrible things that have yet to happen to you. And I'm like, why would you ever say that?
Yeah.
I don't appreciate it. And you should have some manners if you can see the future and not do this kind of thing to people. Jesus Christ. Meanwhile, this bitch says, you've got something on your back. And I'm like, excuse me? Is this yet another timeline that she's being like forced to choose? Because it should be gone. Am I wrong? It should be gone.
It is gone. It's almost like this Shadow Proclamation woman, she's in here. It's called the Shadow Architect.
The main woman, but not the woman who's talking to Donna, right?
It says a member of the Shadow Architect's race.
Oh, okay. They have a whole race.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like she can see that there was something there.
Well, that better be it. Because let me tell you, I started to be worried that we were getting a false, like, oh, you thought you woke up. Ha ha. This is just more of your terrible dream. And I started to panic a little bit.
She somehow knows that there had been something on Donna's back earlier and tells her there is a loss still to come.
Ah. Yeah, so basically everything about this conversation is horseshit, and I don't like this lady, and she needs to go away. There's something on your back. Nope, don't need to hear about that. Oh, sorry for your loss that's yet to come. Nope, don't need to hear about that either. How about you just keep your trap shut?
Yeah. Spoilers.
God. Keep your trap shut. So, then we have the doctor coming and talking to Donna about whether there was something weird going on in her world that she can think of that might be any sort of clue to what is happening now. And she's just like, she says, how should I know? Because she's like been doing the like, I'm just a temp, I don't mean anything sort of thing. And then she's like, wait, actually, the bees were disappearing. And the doctor at first is like, the bees were disappearing. And like, is such a patronizing dick. And then he's like, oh my God. And he goes running to this computer. And she says, wait, are bees aliens? And he says, don't be so daft. Not all of them.
Don't say it like that.
Sir.
He says, don't be so daft. And he goes, not all of them.
He is just a drama queen. That is all there is to it.
They're returning to their home, the planet Melissa Majoria.
You know what? You don't go ahead and name a planet Melissa. And any Melissas out there will agree with me. Am I wrong, Melissas? You don't name planets Stephen or Karen or Richard. You just don't do it. No. Okay? We're going to come up with something that isn't the name of like 30,000 people on the face of Earth. That's not a good idea. It's very... come on, somebody. Was there somebody writing this script whose like stepdaughter was mad at him that week? And he was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'll make it up to her. I'm going to name a planet after her on the show. Because that's what that feels like to me. She'll like that. I'll mention her. And she has just had her, what would it be, 18th birthday? Is that the age of majority? So,
sure.
You know, we'll call it Melissa Majora because it's been her birthday. And she's finally done it.
Maybe.
But yeah, he says, if the migrant bees felt some danger and decided to escape, and this woman says the Tandaka scale, and he says that is a scale used as a carrier for signals from migrant bees. Infinitely small, no wonder we didn't see it, like looking for a speck of cinnamon in the Sahara. And that is a hell of a comparison to make. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this is the thing that signals that they can follow the bee's path, I guess, the Tandaka path, right? So they are rushing up to do that, and this is the thing that he really thinks is going to be the answer. But it turned... you shut your face. You jag. But it turns out, what happens? It just sort of like dissipates? It's too scattered to follow? Is that right? Because eventually it's their phone call that gets to him and shows him where to go. But meanwhile, fucking Donna's precious grandpa with his paint gun, his paintball gun, he nails this Dalek in the eyeball glass.
Yeah.
I don't know what to call it. With a paintball, thinking that, oh yeah, if I disable their vision, we'll stand more of a chance against them. And he's wearing like a little beanie. He's so cute.
It's not a bad idea.
It's not a terrible idea, but it's just like they burn it off instantly and are just like, yeah. I mean, nice try, buddy. Now you're dead.
Like who would predict that?
Yeah, it's fair. I mean, I don't think I would have taken that risk to begin with because I am a coward who would not trust. I have too much anxiety to like do something that I'm not 100% sure is going to work when it comes to life and death situations. I think I would be like, somebody else can try that out. I'm good. And yeah, they are about to get zapped when here comes Rose and she has her giant fucking air guitar gun and zaps the whole like top half of it off. And it's very satisfying, to be honest. I enjoyed that. So she's trying to find Donna, and they don't know where Donna is, and she is a little bit, like, alarmed now, because she really figured that they would know, and that then she'd be able to track the doctor down. And now she doesn't know
but they
what
haven't
to
been
do.
able to get a hold of Donna.
Yeah.
And the last time she called them was when they were on midnight, and her mom is like, what are you even talking about? And he's like, how blind are you?
Yeah, I love this. He's just like, can you open your eyes? There's fucking aliens in our streets taking people prisoner. I feel like you don't get to say, that's impossible anymore. Like, shut up. And he's right. Team Grandpa. So yeah, it's stopped. That's right. The doctor says, the signal stopped. I'm in the Medusa Cascade. And we find out later that the Medusa Cascade was set to like 1 second or 1 minute off.
Yeah.
I don't know what this means.
It's like out of sync with the rest of time.
Okay. The center
and
of
so
a
they
rift
were
with
able
time
to
and
hide all of
space.
these planets there.
Right. So this is the point where he begins to sort of give up. And then everybody else gets together, does the phone call thing, manages to get the signal to him, and he zeroes in and gets onto the computer screen. And Jack is immediately like, where the hell have you been? Are you
Well, let's give
serious?
Harriet Jones her proper due. This is all because of her.
Oh, I
that they
forgot
were
that she
able-
dies before. Yeah, I was going to bring that up after, but I forgot that she dies before he's like able to
But
get
this
connected.
whole plan of everybody dialing the signal at the same time, blah, 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 this is all her plan.
Right. Because she said there would come a time where they would need his help, and he wasn't going to be there.
Yep.
And he was all like, that's never going to happen. And she was just like, bitch, listen. And like, I've been standing for Harriet Jones. Y'all know. I've been saying he was disrespectful and he was unwilling to listen, and that she had several valid points that he just didn't want to engage with and was a huge asshole to her and basically
And
deposed her.
Yep. And she didn't take it personally and be like, well, fine. Then I guess fuck all of you and fuck him and who cares? She still like set up this whole network, this little secret network, just in case.
Yep. So I feel very vindicated in my stan. To summarize, we stand harder than ever before. Because she just goes out there and is like, yeah, well, I managed to mask the signal for so long. I got you guys all in touch. I managed to, like, I'm pretty sure, get in touch with him. And I can die now because I don't really matter. As long as we've got this set, we're good. And she just walks out there into the fucking midst of a bunch of Daleks and is like, yeah, kill me. You pussies. You absolute cowards. You metal nothings. You're not people. You don't know what we're like. We're about to fuck your lives up. And then they zap her. But it was just really a badass moment. I respect the hell out of her, and I just feel really glad that I never gave up on her. That I was always just like, he was wrong. He was just wrong. And it feels like the show is like low-key kind of being like, yeah, we realize that maybe she wasn't as shitty as we like made it look, and kind of want to give her a break. So we're going to give her this moment where she's able to sort of get back some dignity after the doctor was like a huge asshole to her. And I might be projecting, but I don't care. That's the story I'm going with. I'm sticking to it.
So she gets in contact with all these people, and Rose can't like break in because there's no webcam on the cameras or on the computers at the house because Sylvia said that they were naughty and would not allow them in the house.
That sounds like some shit my dad would have said.
So Rose is like having to watch all of this play out. She can hear what's happening. She can see all of them, but she can't like put her own, vision on screen.
Image.
That's what I meant.
Rose vision. Yeah, so the doctor is like, he mentions her too. He's like, everybody's here except for Rose. And she sort of like looks a bit wistful. So he heads down with Donna and appears in the street and is like asking Donna, what else has she said to you? And Donna is trying to remember, and then she looks up and she's like, why don't you ask her yourself? And he turns around and Rose is like way far off on the other end of the street. And I was like, oh shit, that's not good. That's not good. Something is definitely going to happen before she gets to him. And sure enough, he gets shot by a Dalek. And he begins regenerating. I was kind of like, have they figured out a way to hurt him in a way that means he can't regenerate? I was like, is there going to be something that comes up where they try and like regenerate him from that hand that's in liquid floating in the fucking TARDIS all this time? Because that hand is just really unsettling, guys. I keep waiting for something to happen with that hand. I don't like it. I don't like it just being there in the background. But no, he begins to regenerate.
While all of this is happening, like, Jack has realigned his little bracelet. What's it called? His little, not transporter.
His little
teleporter.
Plot device.
His wrist teleporter. His plot device, yes. He's managed to, like, sync that up so that he can teleport out, but so he leaves Gwen and Yanto down there while Daleks are showing up.
Right.
And Sarah Jane is driving. She leaves her kid to go find the doctor, I guess, or to meet up with everybody. And then there's Daleks that stop her as she's driving down the street.
Can I just say how funny it's like she says, "I'm sorry." And the Daleks, like, Daleks do not accept apologies.
Yeah.
I was just like, girl, what are you doing saying I'm sorry to a Dalek? Are they going to be like, it would have been amazing, though, if they, like, lowered their weapons and they were like, because you have apologized, the Daleks accept your apology. This is your final warning. And then just allowed her to pass. But yeah, it looked like she was about to get shot, but I'm guessing that does not happen, because I feel like if she were to die, that would happen on screen. We'd be allowed to see that. But maybe not. I don't know. I don't know what there is for her to do, pretty much, at this point, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah. And the doctor, you know, has the big revelation with who is really behind all of this, and that guy looks really crazy, and the doctor's like, totes shook, because he thought that this guy was, like, gone forever, and it turns out that he got rescued by a crazy Dalek, which is just really kind of rude and unfair that you can just make a thing, because this guy created the Daleks, that will, like, literally break through time and space to save you. That's just so, like, presumptuous and really... It feels, like, unfair to the Daleks as well, because they're basically, like, slaves in a way, you know? So I honestly feel weirdly bad for them, even though they're the worst. But they're, like, really corrupt house elves or something, you know?
It's just curious to me, because there's a lot of them. There's a lot of Dalek ships that show up on Earth.
Yeah.
And a lot of Daleks inside of those ships. And if he's creating them one by one out of pieces of his body, I guess it doesn't take very much.
I was assuming that he created one out of pieces of his body, and once he was able to succeed, he was just able to take pieces off of that. Like, he could take a tentacle and they just, like, regrow that tentacle real quick. And then he would, like, take a tentacle from that one once it regrew, and a tentacle from the other new one, and it would, like, exponentially begin to be enough DNA.
Or it's just all cloning.
Or it could be just cloning, yeah. I guess it's easier. Whatever, you know. Science.
Science! Yeah, so then we get a to be continued, which we don't see very often.
Yeah, it's weird that they did it this time, because there's a lot of other times where it's just like, and that's the end, and we're going to preview, like, almost immediately, begin to spoil you with what happens in part 2, or it'll break off and then the credits begin, and it just ends like a normal episode. And it was, when it said to be continued, I was kind of like, oh, that's different. They don't do that often. But I guess that this is going to be Matt Smith. I don't know. But that's who I like. The only
I
other
am shrugging.
That's the only other one that I know, other than like the lady one.
Mm-hmm.
I think I knew about one other dude who's like older, but this is kind of fun because like I had said something about what if the Doctor and Rose don't actually get to meet up, and like they're gonna get to meet up. I mean, they weren't completely prevented, but I got a little bit of that. So that scratched that itch for me of tragedy. I needed a little bit of tragedy, and I feel like I got some. That works.
And then he regenerates again into another version, and she's like, "You're not as hot as David Tennant." So
she's just like,
"I guess I'm good."
You know, I really liked you as friends, and
I know I crossed like parallel universes to get to you, but now that you've got a really different face, friend. I just don't feel the same now that you look completely different.
I am such a good friend. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that because I just didn't expect him to regenerate before the end of the season. I thought that there would be, you know, pretty much on schedule. But I like that. I like that this is coming as a surprise. And I also like really enjoy this insane Dalek. I really do so much. The Daleks are just sort of dull, you know? And
I think they're hilarious.
Well, they are. And that's kind of the thing. It's like, I'm not afraid of them when everybody's having this like really dramatic, like tearful reaction while they're going exterminate. I'm just like, I can't, you guys. Like
Sarah Jane hugging her son and being like, you're so
young. Oh my God.
And Jack being like, we're dead. Kissing both of his companions. Like, okay.
Yeah. I'm sorry. It's just like,
Jack, are you guys dead? How many times have you personally survived the Daleks? And I don't mean like survive because you keep being brought back to life.
Right.
But like you've gotten away from the Daleks a number of times.
Yeah, I can't tell you guys how glad I am that there is somebody else in charge. You know, that there's somebody else at the helm who has figured out this entire plan. Because if it was just the Daleks all on their own, this would just be so uninteresting. And I also wouldn't buy it. You know, I just wouldn't buy that they had come up with this. So I like the fact that there's somebody else and that we do still get at least one Dalek that I like because his brain is broken. So that's fun too. Yeah, because I feel like somebody commented, like, I feel like Natasha needs to be reminded that the Daleks are like the one species that the Time Lords were afraid of.
Yeah.
And I was like, I mean, I know that, but that doesn't mean that I believe it. You know, like, I get that that's like supposed to be in world what's true, but I can't make myself feel like they're a threat. I just don't really, unless they're being used like pawns in this way, exactly, you know? Mm-hmm. Then they're scary because they're just fucking, like I said, steamrollers. But, you know, a steamroller doesn't have a brain. So
it's just unfortunate that the biggest villain to the Doctor, the biggest enemy to the Doctor is this creature that is so silly. Mm-hmm. Because of the limitations in the 60s when this creature was created.
Yeah. I mean, I guess they're like, what's his name? Davros? Davros. That is not going to stick, I can tell.
It's Davos with an R. Davros.
So Davros. No, it's definitely Davros, I'm pretty sure. He is, I guess, like, even more of an enemy to the Doctor, but because he's just, like, the one person, it's not considered a threat.
I mean, he's like Emperor Palpatine.
Totally.
And he creates these things, and then these things, there's just so many of them, they just keep coming back. Right. Over time, but he's not always the one that the Doctor has to fight.
How creepy would it be if it was like Dalek things opened and it was a bunch of like his head? Like they looked like him. They took after Daddy. That's where the DNA comes from, I guess. So it would make sense.
It would be less laughable than the first time you see a Dalek inside of the shell and you're like...
I agree.
Ugh.
How freaky would it... It would almost be like those balls with the human heads flying around in them. Except like way creepier because he was just, you know...
Yeah.
But yeah, it's weird to me that, like you said, the restrictions of what they had to work with in the 60s are still dictating what the Daleks are like now. And I'm like, you guys couldn't just update that a little bit?
They did update it by actually being able to have them flying around.
That's not an update, though. That's a change
but...
to their functionality. That doesn't change the look of them or their, like, overall... You know?
Well, because they can't because it's classic.
No, whatever.
It's a classic villain. It's just like the Cybermen.
We don't need to be a slave to tradition here, people.
We don't. We've had plenty of really creepy villains that had nothing to do with the past versions of this show. Mm-hmm. You know, we've had the Weeping Angels and those Clockwork Men and all kinds of cool shit that didn't exist before because technology wouldn't have allowed it to.
The Clockwork Men in Girl in the Fireplace, right?
Yeah.
Those are cool. I like those. Yeah, I just don't understand why they felt the need to, like, stick with these as the thing. But, like I said, they figured out, like, the one way to get this to work for me. So, I appreciate it. Darvos, notwithstanding.
Shut up. Any theories on the next episode?
Like, all I can think of is fucking River giving Donna a pitying look when Donna asks what happens to her. So I'm just like, is Donna gonna fucking die? Is Donna gonna sacrifice herself for the good of all? Is she going to be the Jesus character? Was the world going to turn out totally differently and they needed to keep Donna from meeting the doctor because she's going to be the one that figures shit out or, you know, is the key to it all? I'd be so sad. I would be delighted that she was able to go down in a blaze of glory and be remembered forever as a hero because Donna's my fave and I would be her friend. But also... I hate that. And, like, honestly, the world doesn't deserve Donna. So, that's all I got. That's the only thing I can think.
It's pretty great. Okay, well, we get to wait 2 weeks until you find out.
That's right. Because, guys, Jamie and I record on Thursdays. And next Thursday is Thanksgiving. So, apologies that y'all are going to have to wait. But... You know, suck it. I was so annoyed because today's episode, which was Turn Left, that went up this morning, there was some sort of weird error with Spreaker and it just didn't post. And for some reason, I would not have normally checked that. I don't know what made me go, I need to make sure that posted. I never double check that. If something doesn't post automatically the way that it's meant to, it's not until somebody's like, hey, is that episode up? That I'm like, wait, what? Oh, shit, did it not go up? But for some reason today, I was like, I'm going to check that. And sure enough, it didn't. And then I spent like an hour trying to fix it and upload it, and Spreaker just wouldn't do it. It was just like, nope, I pressed publish, and it would like do the little spinny thing. And then the publish button would just come back. And I tried like refreshing the page and doing it all over again, deleting the file and uploading a fresh one. Wouldn't work. But it finally did. So apologies for that one being late as well. Just been running into some weird tech issues. There's been a lot of stuff that hasn't uploaded on Patreon as well. And people are having to like get at me and be like, hey, this episode just says 0 minutes. And Patreon doesn't let me publish a post without a sound file attached to it. It physically will not let me do it. But somehow it's allowing it to post like there's a sound file, even though it's empty.
Why does your computer keep thinking sound files are empty?
I don't like, this is it's not the computer either, because the sound files are there on my end. I can play them. I just edited them. They're fine. But Spreaker lets me upload it. All this time passes as I watch its progress. It acts like it's done. I press publish. It looks like it's published. And then when I press the play button on the actual post, 0 minutes and nothing happens.
Weird.
Yeah. And that's happened like 7 or 8 times over the past 2 weeks. It's happening constantly. It's so annoying.
You mean Patreon?
Yeah.
So Patreon's having a problem.
Yeah. And this one, like to this morning that didn't go was Spreaker.
Yeah.
So who the fuck knows?
And that's the public one.
Yeah, that's the one that feeds to iTunes and Spotify and all the other ones. So, yeah, apologies, guys, but don't be afraid to let me know if some shit does not seem to be playing the way that it is supposed to, because I have a lot to keep track of, and I probably won't find out about that on my own unless somebody tells me, so don't be afraid. I'm surprised that I didn't wake up to like 6 messages going, where's Doctor Who? Where is it? Because so many people were looking forward to Turn Left. When I posted that I was having a problem, last week's file, guys, just disappeared, and Jamie's superhero boyfriend walked me through finding the actual, like, discarded file in a subfolder, because otherwise, y'all, we would have lost the episode for Midnight, which was my favorite episode of the show so far, and I was gutted. I was so upset. So
yeah, when you sent me that text, I was like, I just turned to him and I was like, you know all kinds of crazy tech stuff that I don't understand. This is what the situation is. Do you know of any way to recover this file that, like, seems to think that there's data?
Yeah.
But there's none. And he was like, if it says that there is, you know, 1 point whatever gigs or whatever it was saying, then it's there. It's somewhere. And so he actually I was like Googling stuff and coming up with the same thing that you came up with. And I don't know what he did, but he was on his computer and he was looking at this and looking at that. And then he's like, okay, so this is what she needs to do. And he started telling me, and I was like, hold on. And that's why I was like, can you get on Skype? Because he's going to talk you through it.
And it took like 2 seconds, honestly, once he did, like, it was very simple to do, but it was not something that I knew about.
Even when he was explaining it to you, I was like, wow, how did you find that out?
And
because he doesn't use GarageBand, so he was just like, he just knows, like,
the
if it
way
says
that things
data,
are saved.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I posted about how, like, guys, I'm not sure if we're going to have an episode because it looks like it's gone. And a bunch of people were like, oh, but Turn Left was next week. Shit. Because they thought, I think, that we would just re-record on Midnight.
Yeah.
Which I guess we would have. Like,
well, that was also when I was like, please see if you can figure this out, because I don't know how we can recreate it.
Right.
Like, I just felt like that. I actually listened to that episode.
Oh, did you?
After you posted it. Yeah, because I was like, we had some, like, really in-depth conversations about, like, politics and, like,
denial,
important life issues in relation to this show, and we'll never get that back, because I don't even remember what we said, but it was such a satisfying conversation that really fit into what the episode was. And I was like, I just, you can't recreate what felt like magic at the time.
Yeah.
Because sometimes everything just flows so perfectly that it's not something that can be recreated because it's organic. And so I was like trying not to get too upset and just giving him like big sad eyes, like, can you do anything?
And you know what?
You're
because
our
like,
only
some
hope.
of you who listen to Harry Potter, you know that Rashawn and I lost one of our big important episodes towards the end, and we were absolutely wrecked. And what we wound up doing was recording with somebody else who was unspoiled but following along. And that was Chris Tex, who, that whole thing was Owen's idea. Was like, why don't you get Chris Tex to record with you? And he saved the day. And so we each have a boyfriend who, like, fixed the thing in very different ways. But
we made very good choices in our partners.
We did.
Yeah.
And I, you know, if things had not been recoverable, that's probably what we would have tried to do this time, is find somebody who was unspoiled who could have, like, recorded with us to make up for it. But, you know, it wasn't going to be the same anyway. So, Yeah, so thank you very much, Jason, for that. And to all of you guys for your patience as well.
Everybody was really appreciative, and I told them they could pay him in chocolate.
Yeah, guys.
He would really appreciate that. He loves chocolate.
And she'll get a P.O. box addressed to you all.
Oh, I'd have to get a P.O. box.
Oh, God, don't do it. What a headache. All right, guys. Well, is there anything else you wanted to add before we wrap?
No, none of the trivia it was either stuff I couldn't really talk about because there's still a part 2 or just not really that interesting. So,
okay.
Nope. And there's no bingo updates and no new reviews, guys. Thanksgiving is next week. Can you be thankful and tell us?
Yeah, do that. I should also do that. I should review some of the podcasts I've been listening to lately. So yeah, guys, don't feel bad if you haven't, because I also haven't. But then if Thanksgiving passes and you still haven't, then feel bad. Feel terrible.
My birthday was last week. You
oh yeah, happy birthday to Jamie.
Thank you.
Yeah, I kept on like all week. I was like, Jamie's birthday. And then that morning I woke up and I had this like, there's something today. What's today? What is it? And then I got on
There's
Facebook.
like 2 other listeners who have the same birthday as me.
Yeah. I have a listener that has Alex Irwin is the same birthday as me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So there's a lot of people out there at this time of year, October, November. It feels real crowded. I've been getting so many notifications from Facebook. With the other day, 6 friends, same birthday. 6.
Wow.
I was like, what? But yeah, happy birthday.
Thanks.
All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and we will see you in 2 weeks with a new episode and the finale of season 4.
Woo!
Until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.